Are you looking for a new hobby or pastime for 2023? Yesterday, I went to my hairstylist, James, for my cut and color every 2 months, every 8 weeks. And while I was sitting in his chair, he told me about a new hobby that he and his wife were about to begin. It's called mudlarking. I had never heard of it. I bet you haven't either.
English without fear, where you can learn to speak English naturally through listening to stories.
So, what is mudlarking? Well, you know what mud is. Mud is dirt that's wet and yucky. Ugh. We don't like to get our shoes muddy. So that's what mud is. Pigs like to roll around in the mud. Children like to play in mud. Larking. Okay. The main definition of a lark is a bird, a songbird, a lark. But if you go on a lark, that means you try something just for the fun of it, something whimsical. You have an idea and you go do it. But it's not dangerous or it's not harmful to anybody. It's just for fun. That's going on a lark because you never know what will happen. So, mudlarking is when you look along the side or the shore of a river and you hunt in the mud for things that might be buried, lost things. Think about beach combing. It's sort of like that. You know what beach combing is. It's when you look very carefully along the beach to find something that might have washed up or something buried. To comb, we comb our hair, and it means to look very carefully. If you comb through something, you take your time. They even have metal detectors that you can buy because people lose watches, jewelry, rings. There might be pirate coins and treasure that have washed up. So it's sort of like that. It's sort of like beach combing. Mudlarking is nothing new. It might be a hobby today, but 200 years ago in England, it was a way for people, for poor people to survive. Mostly children were sent out along the River Thames. Now, let's take a moment and talk about how you pronounce the name of this major river in England. The River Thames goes through London, and even though it looks like Thames with a th sound, it's like the name of a boy, Tim, with a Z, Thames, the River Thames. Go figure. It's British English. So back in the 18th and 19th century, poor boys were sent by their families to go dig in the mud along the river to see what they could find so that they would then sell it and the family would have food. Take a look at this drawing. It's a print taken from a book on the history of mudlarking. These two boys are digging around the mud to see what they can find so their family can eat. Today, mudlarking is not for survival, it's for fun. Well, what can you find today? There are lots of things that in the past have fallen off ships, or back years ago in the 18th and 19th centuries, people use the river as a dumping ground for garbage. So, one of the most common finds happen to be old bottles, and some of them are very valuable. In fact, if you go on YouTube, you'll find men who have made this a hobby, but who are making lots of money selling, cleaning up, and selling old bottles. Apparently, the type of water in the River Thames is very good. The water and the mud are very good for preserving antiquities, old things. Well, can anybody go mudlarking on the River Thames? Nowadays, if you want to, you have to get a permit, and you are limited to the south side of the river, and then you can only dig maybe 3 centimeters, not very far. And if you find something that turns out to be older than 300 years, you have to give it to the Museum of London. So, are James and his wife going to fly over to London to go mudlarking? No. They like to kayak. They like to go for quiet paddling excursions along the rivers here in North Alabama. And they think that along the sides of the river, they might find some valuable artifacts, because people, Native Americans, have lived by the rivers for hundreds and hundreds of years. You never know what you might find. Could be old bottles, or it could be pottery or stone tools. Anyway, I think this is a economical, relaxing, but potentially treasure finding hobby. So next time I go back to James to get my hair cut and colored, I'll find out if he and his wife have gone mudlarking in their kayak. Well, what about you? Do you have a favorite hobby? Or are you trying something new this year in 2023? Leave me a comment and tell me about it. Well, that's it for this episode of English Without Fear. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for watching. For questions or comments, here's my email